Hello everybody, my name is Erik Teren Mullins, and today we're going to be checking out Goodsmile Arts Shanghai's Goddess of Victory Nikke's Scarlet. And usually on my channel, despite deep diving, I don't usually go into all the nitty-gritty details of the scale because genuinely they kind of get pretty close most of the times when mentioned. Of course, the last time I purchased a Goodsmile Shanghai Arts figure, I was extremely disappointed because she was absolutely scaled as a 1/8 despite, promoting and advertising her as a 1/7. This is still a really nice figure, and if ever you want to see my review on her, you can. I'll put a link in the description below. It's just to say I still kind of have my reservations. I did the measurements, the math, the homework, and let me tell you, this figure right here is extremely well scaled as a 1/7. Thank you so much, Goodsmile. I was so stressed out to have to make another video dunking on this sort of thing. I probably would have canceled most of my figures that I pre-ordered from you if that were the case, because I just don't like to support that kind of behavior. But this is fantastic. You did an excellent job. And of course, you're looking at this figure thinking, oh my gosh, just look at all those details. They are quite impressive. However, when seen from a microscope, are they still as impressive? Let's find out. One quick thing to mention, this figure was unboxed during another video. If you'd like to see that video, the description will be down below. And a second thing to mention, so many things to mention. I have a lot of mentionable things today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps my channel grow. And now with that aside, oh my goodness, she almost went flying off. I'm way too animated of a person. I'm always smacking into things left and right. I have to mind my bubble. With that aside, it's time to get into this review. Her base might seem somewhat simple from a distance, but let me tell you, this base is extremely relevant. It looks so good. It fits in the Goddess of Nikke universe perfectly. The tiling is very well done, is uneven to imply the undergrowth. We have some shading, some highlights, and it's done in a matte texture, which is excellent considering the grass that's sprouting in between the cracks is done with a gloss, so it really pops beautifully. From underneath, everything is simple enough. Though I find it interesting, we can see the metal peg going through the plastic. I feel like the thickness and weight of that plastic isn't necessarily the most solid thing, so do be careful with her on this base. I still think that she might be able to snap off it pretty easily, especially considering we have these two long pronged pegs that go up and into her beautifully designed high heels. The plastic here isn't extremely clear. I don't know if that's because the matte stuff might have been a little cheaper, but genuinely when you use a plastic that's a little more matte, it's more solid. And I know this because I'm a Lego collector. Doesn't mean this is the same kind of plastic. I don't have the tools to really get in there. So again, be mindful about this character. Maybe not put her on a place that's going to shake too much, because she does shake quite a bit. But of course, you're going to get that from a more top-heavy figure. It's funny that, I mentioned she's a more top-heavy figure, but for once, in so many of my reviews, it's not for the same reasons one would think. Just look at this massive hat, but we'll get into that later. The beautiful matte gold that we have for the soles of her shoes are well sculpted and look pretty cool, but we don't get a lot of shading on them. This is not so bad due to the fact that the way that the regular light in your everyday life plays off of them does a decent job at this already. And now things really begin to shine, pun intended, once we get into these lovely super gloss boots, and they are glossy. Very reflective. You could almost see your face in them. Scarlet's design in general for her boots is very beautiful, with all sorts of breaks, cutoffs, and different types of designs and motifs in order to break the monotony of a single color. I'm not saying this is a good or a bad thing, it's just a character design thing, because of course some characters that have simplistic, more monotonous designs going on are very charming, like Alice, for example. The one mild issue I have with her left boot piece, we get a more pearlized gloss sock covering, which seems strapped on with a black material. This thing is more of a matte plastic, but personally, I think that rather than making this look more pearlized, I would have made it matte, and then I probably would have had the attachments be in a gloss. I think this would have done a better job at sectioning things off and making them seem like different materials. Because from your shelf, it just all looks like gloss. You don't really see the pearlization that well. We've got some colder shading here and there, along with some cutouts that show off a bit of her skin and a black semi-gloss wrapped around. As we slowly go up towards her thighs, you can kind of see that these things go in some sort of white short material. I don't know how accurate that is for the character. You don't really see that super well in any of the main video game artwork. I think they could have gone without this short line here, and it could have just attached directly into her main bodysuit. On the back left leg of mine, you can see there's a tiny drop of paint or something like that. I couldn't get this off, and my worry is that if I try too hard, it'll just chip a piece off the paint. Quality control issues like this happen. It's nothing new for me. I have a lot of figures. I've sold a lot of figures. I've gone through figures. It's just kind of annoying, but I'd rather have it on a place that's not as noticeable like this than front row and center in the face. We get some lovely beveling of the skin as it comes out along the side, where everything looks so soft and smooth. Though we don't get any shading here, it still looks nice regardless. Her belt is so detailed and has so much going on, why it could be its own figure. It's just wild with all the different textures, designs, decals, motifs, everything just everywhere. While we seem to get a little bit of shading on the main white piece, once we get into the purple, there's nothing, and that's a little disappointing. It looks well sculpted, however, there are sections that should have been carved in much deeper than they are, especially knowing they weren't going to put any shading on this. From a shelf, you don't really notice it. And by don't notice it, I mean you don't notice a lot of these little details, because even with the lighting, it pops, but not enough to make you really feel like it's attached onto something else. We have a nice layering effect with different pieces of this hip armor as we go down, and a sort of fun fan motif along the center of her body. We actually get a nice light to darker gradient on the piece in the middle. They definitely should have done something like that with the purple. While on the inside, it looks like we have a beautifully soft motifed, and seen from most angles, it looks okay, unless you look directly down in the middle, in the front, or the back, where it just looks like they've given up on everything. It's ugly. It's really ugly. When you're looking at this figure from a distance, you're usually never going to notice it. It's just if you have her a little lower on a display, you're going to see it, and it's just frustrating. I feel like this should have definitely been better done. At least they could have made it go deeper into the actual belt so it wouldn't have been as noticeable. Despite saying this, depending on where you display her, most of you aren't going to notice this at all, but I still had to mention it. Going along the back, we actually have a bunch of ropes and attachments with a cute little bow. The bow has some lovely shading on it, and thank goodness for that, because there's so much going on here, all molded as one chunk. I'm very appreciative of this shading. I actually would have liked to see a little more of it on some of the other attachments that we have on this belt. We're on the right side, we have a callback to the purple that we have, but this is done in a much stronger gloss. It's nice, it gives you an idea that they're painted similarly, but they are made out of different materials. Some of the ropes dangling down have beautiful decals on them, nice paintwork, and spin around to attach onto a bottle that probably has some sort of juice in it. A juice made of rice of sorts. I know what it is, and I'm willing to show off all sorts of spicy characters. When it comes into the realm of addiction, inebriation, and issues like that, I kind of tread lightly here on this channel. Isn't that right, Grape Juice Shenano? Going over her left leg is this giant sashed material that has a couple of decals on it, is tied up with some purple material, and then goes up and over her weaponry. We have these cool little armor plating things, but they're done in a way that comes off more as material and how they're sculpted. And then this thick, leathery looking chunk of purple that has decals going along it with the same motifs that you kind of see on the side of her leg. The way this thing is sculpted really gives off thicker material vibes, where when it ends on the backside, it comes down into this droopiness that needed a lot more shading in order to feel believable as a different material. Even where we have the rope tying it around here, everything just looks all one note, and from a distance, again, you have that issue where you don't see things properly because they weren't properly shaded or sculpted deep enough. Personally, I think the sculpt work is all right, actually. The shading just needed to be significantly more pronounced. We have some white material flowing and ebbing throughout the rest of this weaponry that we have back here, along with more chunks of design work, mixes of colors, lovely gloss plasticky feeling purples, and more darker matte leather paintwork, which all goes up and attaches within the middle of her back belt. I think they did a really good job with this cute little piece here. However, the metallic gold that we have is so warm and strong, it pops out in contrast to most of the other gold we see on this figure, with exception to that under her chest. Her weaponry is pretty cool. I always thought it was a little odd that she keeps the sword just dangling behind her while her sheath facing the other side is just not in use, but I don't care. It looks fun. It's different, and it kind of gives her a bit of personality too, considering this figure is loaded with it. Between all the little motifs and aesthetic design work that we have on her, do an excellent job at telling you a story where if you got to meet her and talk to her, you feel like she would have so much to say about why she's wearing, what she's wearing, or what she preferred to put on when she got up that day. We have some nice shading going across the sheath, cool little cyberpunk futuristic looking markings and cutouts here and there, where the sword's sculpt work is very well done and has sharper edges along the blade so that depending on how the light hits it, it gives you the effect for that different angle of that edge. The handle to the sword has similar shading as the sheath, so you just know when she'd put it in there, everything would have a nice uniform look to it. And here comes a part of this figure that anyone that knows anything about Nikke kind of expects it to be. For a game that's main design is really to show off the behinds of characters, this one is extremely well hidden. We definitely get to see it here or there, but it's nothing that you're really going to get a good look at because she's just got too much going on back there. I find that surprising. You know who your target audience is, and yet when you make a figure or a character, you don't necessarily cater to what your target audience wants. I'm looking at you, Viper. Literally one of my favorite character designs. When you're using her in the game, it's like, shift up. What are you doing? I mean, you want money, right? Gosh knows the character skins are way too expensive. But the story's amazing. I'm not here to do a review on Shift Up. I'm going off topic. The sculpt work is very well done for somebody who's got an athletic body like this, while still keeping her petite stature. Looking down through her belt, you can see her behind pretty well, but due to the fact that she has this massive hat on, you're not going to really get a good look at her like this anyway. While we go up into this beautiful cyberpunk exoskeleton spine. Everything here has a nice white pearlization with beautiful shading, and we get some stretches and pulls in the fabric too. She then has this little shoulder design thing that wafts ever so slightly along the back and goes around her body to connect around the top of her chest. I don't know why, but the little add-ons and doohickeys that we see on the front of this thing really screams Star Wars in design to me. The bodysuit along the front has one side that has this beautiful black line to it. It looks really cool, gives you that nice robot-y feel. Nice sculpt work where you can barely just see that there's an indentation for the navel, a few more stretches and pulls in the fabric, and a warmer, more reflective gold than you'll find on most of this figure, with exception to that tiny little piece I had mentioned earlier. Her chest is very well shaped and does a good job at reflecting the source material. I'd just like to say that her chest does go into her clothing very well, giving off the effect that she is wearing the clothing and not necessarily that she was sculpted with it. We don't get much in the way of highlights or shading for the skin, however, it is really soft and expertly sculpted. She has a nice sharp collarbone, though it's not too defined. I personally like a little more definition, but that's objective. With her right shoulder pushing a little personality, going higher than the usual, coming down into a lovely, elegant, slender arm that has some sweet little armbands on it that really push into her skin. This way she doesn't lose it during her extremely fast samurai sword slashing. While her right hand is very well sculpted. Fingers are nicely splayed out, elegant, and have a cute little amount of pinkish gloss at the tips to really give off that nail effect. While on her left side, she's reaching back and holding onto her weaponry. We get one of those classic styled samurai pieces of armor, this time with a little bit of line work under each one, making the purple one that she has on her hips here stand out kind of like a sore thumb. Line work. I feel like you could just get a Gundam modeler's pen and put a couple of lines under here and it would really look excellent. However, for those of you that like to think about value of your figure, if ever you want to sell them in the future, you might not want to do this. And if you are going to do this because you want to keep her forever, you may want to use more of a water-based paint because you can almost ever so slightly scratch off the parts that you mess up on it. Just please be careful and take your time. The last thing I want is to receive in the comment section a whole slew of people that said, "You said I should do this, and I did it, and now my whole figure's ruined." So maybe you might want to practice a little bit if ever you do something like this. I'm going off topic. Her left forearm looks no more elegant than that on the right, where her hand goes over her weaponry, and I would say it could hold on to it a little bit better. It definitely seems like it's just kind of laying there, though the thumb in the center of her hand really does look like it's pushing against it nicely. It's just the fingers that don't all seem like they're on it perfectly. But these fingers do have a little bit of personality, which is nice. Her neck is long, elegant, thin, plugs right under the face very well, and does an excellent job at mimicking the source material. You get to see a little bit of her left ear, which looks small, cute. Her face is extremely rounded with a pointy, sharp nose, very anime, very much like the Nikke artwork, and so expertly done. The smug smile that we have is perfection. However, I personally would have liked to see a tiny little bit of gloss here for her lips. The sculpt work is so nice that you can even see how things are kind of beveling outwards around that mouth. The eye decals look really good. The whole thing is done in one uniform semi-gloss, and it's nice how the right eye kind of goes in just a little more to really push that smug vibe that we're getting from her. Eyebrows are also decaled on there. And now we talk about her lovely hair. Personally, I think it could have used a lot more shading or perhaps a bit more highlights. That anime shine is something I always love, and I would have liked to see it here. But if not for that, just more highlights so it pops a bit more. I feel like this whole figure is missing highlights and shadings and a lot of parts of her, And at her price, come on, Goodsmile Arts, you can do better. But I am nitpicking because this is very beautiful. I just personally would have liked a little more. What's fun is that the way the hair is sculpted, we get a couple of lines here and there that you can tell that it's from the mold of the different hair strands and plastics being attached, but it's really not too bad. They did a very good job with just one single chunk that was sculpted on there. So I'd like to say thank you so much, sculptor of this hair, along with the person that made the mold afterwards, because it is pretty good. The back of her hair goes in and flows out all over the place. This is due to a bar that's going through and holding it, not really, just figuratively for the character. And in order to recreate that, they put the tiny little gold spikes on each side of the back of her head. Again, this isn't a bar piece you can take out. Her hair's not gonna flow out. This is a static figure. I feel like we all know that, and I'm just going nowhere right now with my talk. Moving on, when you look at the back of her hair, it almost looks like a jellyfish, the way everything bunches up and then we have the strands coming down. It's really pretty, very well executed, and yet it's so separated and divided that you can still see her back and all of her parts very well behind it. It's just so lovely. And now enter the hat. This hat is wild. It has so much personality and so much going on with it to go with the rest of this figure, of course. Starting at the top of the head, you have a little peg here that you peg that hat on. A nice little metallic structure here that seems attached onto her head. This metallic structure has some nice sculpt work to it, a couple of details and line work going up into the bottom of her hat where we have these little plug-in pieces that are coming down like strands. They're well sculpted. We have some nice little line work motif on them as well, where under the hat itself, we get more robotic line work. Maybe I would have liked some of the sectioned off pieces of this line work to have different coloration to them, like a little chunk of purple, maybe a little bit of white that reflects the same white as on the top of her hat. But it's not the end of the world. It's not necessarily needed. I'm just being greedy. Classic Erik, always wanting more. Meanwhile, on the top of the hat, we have all sorts of stuff going on. The main base hat has lovely shading to it, along with some line work. We have a beautiful matte silver border going all around the edges with little clampy looking pieces attached to it. Nice little decal along the top. The center is a golden matte with these cute little devilish horns coming out the top. Epic poofs of material along the side of this hat. I'm not really sure how it stays on there, but that's not the point. Nikke's all about beauty and design, and things just work with Nikke magic. This right here, this is pretty cool. Very well painted. We get a lovely gradient as things go into a lighter gold as it moves down, with some decal work and a couple of paint applications. The braided rope we get along the top of this hat is insanely well done, and we get some nice line work for this. What the heck, Goodsmile Arts? You should have put that line work on the purple. I keep coming back to it, but it's just this purple is such a shiny, big focal point. It would have been lovely to have it. Moving on, purple accent tassels along the bottom, and all of this is plugged in with this little gold rectangular piece. She comes with an alternate hair chunk that you can actually swap out with the one she has in now in order to not have that circular peg for the hat and remove the hat altogether. This thing, unfortunately, along the top, you do see where some of the hair strands are interconnected, and I feel like this is something that it's weird. That was an easy fix. They didn't need to have that. And the one that you have on the figure with the hat has it as well. It's just very well hidden by the hat itself. Of course, the concept of having her with her hat on and everything, like, this is a beautiful design. I would never remove it. But for those of you that want to, rejoice. You have the option. Upon her release, she was going for 22,727 yen. That is, I'd say fair. I'd say that what you're getting here in today's day and age of pricing, there's a lot here for that price. The base is gorgeous, so many different textures, so much detail work, and she really does feel like the illustration. The face is nigh perfect. This is a very beautiful figure, and for you Scarlet fans out there, congratulations. You got a real winner on your hands. Goodsmile Arts did a good job. And not only that, but boy howdy did Shift Up really do a number with this figure and her advertisement. It's just, imagine playing a game like Stellar Blade, having a Nikke release where this is the front row center character. Or let's say you don't have time for Stellar Blade and you're a Nikke player. Well, guess what? She can get the Runner's High costume. Her specifically, not the Black Shadow version, which is surprising considering the Black Shadow version is more meta, but they don't care. They wanted to release something for Scarlet. They pushed Scarlet. And all this while making a re-release for this figure all within the same month? That is wild. I've never seen that before. I must say that after so many years of collecting figures, I'm always going on about how sporadic or unplanned out a lot of their marketing or selling of their figures are. If you know that a game is going to do some big promotional thing, releasing a figure at the same time just seems to make sense. But I get the long hours and time it takes to make new figures. So a lot of the times they'll just send it out into the ether. People will pre-order it that want it, and then those that watch an anime, game, or whatnot afterwards will rush to whatever place that they like to order their figures from and find out that it's been not available for 6 months. It's still in pre-order, but you're not getting one unless you find somebody to sell you their pre-order, and that's like a whole thing. They just did a really immaculate job. Shift up, Goodsmile Shanghai, like for real, thank you. This is a fantastic figure, and I'm pretty happy with her. Originally, when I pre-ordered this figure, I had no idea who she was, never played the game, I just loved the design so much, and I knew I had pre-ordered this from Fall Sander, which is really more of an original character design that I wanted them to be together. Two big old hats with giant swords. This is awesome. So I'm really looking forward to finding like a nice place to display these two. Hopefully my video today helped you decide which side of the fence you are on getting this figure or not. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye. She's very gorgeous, but I feel like she's just not fitting particularly well with my other Nikke figures. That's right. I just referred to her as a Nikke figure. Even though she's clearly not the Nikke version, her body proportions in general are already pretty wild. It's crazy to think that Nikke is like, amp that up to 11, please. She's already at 11. No, Nikke 11. That's a whole new 11.